Welcome to Tech Brothers with Ahmed. Today we are going to answer this question and perform a demo. So question is, define the steps for SQL Server Cursor, and then we are going to have a demo. First of all, the definition of cursor is, cursors are the objects which can be used to process data row by row. So how exactly they are helpful? So let's say I want to delete 100,000 records from a SQL Server table. Is that a good practice using a cursor and delete one row at a time? If I want to select 100,000 records, do you think so? Cursors are a good example, taking one row at a time and printing that to me. Or maybe I want to update 100,000 records. Do you think so? It is a good practice updating one row at a time. So there are scenarios where we do not want to use the cursor, and there are scenarios where we want to use the cursor. In cases what I have explained, selecting the rows, updating the rows, or deleting the rows, we would like to do the set based operations. So that will be quick. We want to perform those actions by using the set based queries. We do not want to use the cursor for those scenarios. SQL Server does provide set based operations, and it also provide the cursors. So we need to do if we need to do row by row operation. Let me get back to some examples and tell you where you need those row by row operations. So I have set 5 examples here for you. So let's say we want to kill all connections from a SQL Server database. So this is not delete, this is not update, this is not insert statement. This is you are killing connection manager connections or processes from a SQL Server database. So you can rename the database. So there is no set based query. You have to kill those connections one by one. And then let's say you want to add a new column to the all the tables in a SQL Server database. So this one is called CreatedBy. So there is no set base really query for here. You are going to add that column to each of the table by using alter table, and then you say add column name, whatever the query would be. So you have to run for each of that object. Next, let's say if I want to enable or disable all the triggers in a SQL Server database, what I would do that there is no set based query. You say select disable everything. So you have to enable trigger or trigger name, or disable trigger and trigger name. You have to run those queries for each of the objects. So in those cases, cursors can be used, and they can loop through the objects, and you can disable them or enable them. Then generate scripts. Let's say we are generating scripts to take the backup of each of the database to some location. So we need to generate that query has to run, or we need to produce those queries for each of the database by changing the database name in the query every time. So those are the scenarios where we can use the cursors as well to generate the scripts or take the backups by using the cursor for each of the database in the SQL Server. Let me tell you another one: truncate or delete all the tables from SQL Server database. If you want to truncate all the table, what it would be? You will say truncate table 1, truncate table 2, truncate table 3. So you are running that query for each of the objects. So you can write a cursor that can loop through all the table names and truncate them or delete them. So there are scenarios, there could be tons of scenarios you will be using them where you will use the cursor, and you will feel the need of using the cursors. Now all these examples what I have here, I have the videos on them. You can go to sqla.blogspot.com and find the blog post as well. So let me go to the very first slide back and tell you the steps of the cursor. So steps of the cursor, we know that they process the data row by row, and they are defined or divided into 5 steps. So the very first one is called declare a cursor. So you set a pointer, give the name to the cursor, and then you have to use some select query to get those results. So open cursor, by using that select query, it is going to fetch or populate that cursor with the results. Next, you will be fetching the record from that cursor one after one and perform the action. Once you are done with everything, you will be closing the cursor. That can be reopened as well, but once you are closing the cursor, you will be moving forward to the last step. It is called de-allocate. So you are destroying that cursor, you're not using anymore, you de-allocate from the memory. Okay, now these are basic 5 steps. Let's get back to the real example. Now here I want to rename this database, but if you see, I have test database and this connection is open to the database. So if I will rename this database, let's say I want to say test underscore some date 1503. This could be a very good scenario when you are renaming this database. Just leave this one as it is and restore, or want to restore a new database with the name called testdb. So if I will hit this button, I'm trying to rename it, it is processing it. So let's see what it will throw to us. I'm sure it is going to throw us to an error and say, okay, your database is in the use and there are processes, there are connections, they are attached to this database, so I cannot go ahead and rename this database. Okay, so what we got here, an exception occurred while executing a Transact-SQL statement or batch, and the database could not be exclusively logged or perform the operation because it cannot be renamed. The reason is that there are processes or connections, they are open to this database. So you can see this one is open, and if I go to the next one, this one is open. So there are different queries I'm running, or there are processes, they are open. To rename this database, I have to kill all those connections to this database, and then I can rename this one. So let's go to the cursor example and see how we are going to kill those things. So first of all, the cursor part is going to start from here, and here what we have, first I have some other variable. I have declared a variable called database name, and it is varchar 500, and then I'm saying provide a database name for which we want to kill all those connections. So let's take this part as testdb. Now this is the actual part, and then I have a declared @spid, that's a process ID, and I have given the data type integer to it. We will be using these variables in the cursor. So you could have start your cursor from here, and then later on you will figure out, oh, I need this variable, and then or hard code values you pass that here. But these are the variable I'm using it, and you can declare your variables here before, or start writing your cursor, and with the need you come back and keep writing those variables. First part of that is declare a cursor. So we are declaring with the keyword say declare, and then we give the name to the cursor, and when we have to say cursor, and we say for keyword. So that's how you declare a cursor, and then after that you have to provide a select statement. Now here what I'm doing, I'm trying to find all the process IDs from sys processes system table, and see view. They are sometimes really confusing, like view or a system table, but anyways this is view. So you are finding all the process IDs for this database. So I am, as you guys see that this here I use this variable. So I have set the value to test database for this variable. So if I want to run it, I can go ahead and run it. Let's run this one for now, just the select part of that. So it has given us a lot of process IDs. So let's go back here. I'm going to take this one to the new one, hard code the value, and show you how many process IDs are open with this database. So I can see that there are total, it returned me 21 rows. So there are 21 process IDs or connections. They are currently open with the test database. Fine. Now Next part is open a cursor. So this is going to run a select statement and populate that cursor with those rows. So once open it, it will be populated. Next part is now we have the records, 21 records in the data set. We have to process them one after one. So here what I'm doing, I'm saying fetch next from. So this is the keywords, or this is the way you will say fetch. You will get the first row from the cursor and put into the SPID. Here, remember I told you we can kill these connection by ourselves. Say kill, let's say I want to kill salmon. So I will say kill salmon. User processes. Okay, this is a system process. Hold on, because we are. Let me go to the system, because use master and then go and then get those things for all database, and let's see what we have. So these are actually the 5 only process IDs attached with that. So first I was actually getting the SPIDs from the test database. We should be in the master and use this view and then get the process IDs for this database. So let's say if I have these 5 SPIDs, they are open, and if I want to kill one of them, 51, I can keep killing all of them one after one. So that's what I need to do before I rename this database. So here this is where now if we run this one, you have 4 of them, right? So you want to kill all 4 of them. Here what I'm doing, I want to get one in this SPID variable, so I can kill it, loop through and kill it. So next part is the loop through the rows one by one. So at the rate underscore fetch underscore status is our global variable or function, whatever you call this one, and this will keep returning us 0 till we have the record in this cursor. So while we will process them, they will be eliminated one after one, and when the entire thing will be done, at the rate fetch underscore status will return us a different value or non-zero value. That will be -1 or -2, so it depends. So it will return us non-zero value, and that's how this loop will break. Now once we have the SPID saved here, next part is we are coming here in the loop. So loop is starting. I declare a SQL variable and set this one to the null. Why I declare this one? Because I want to use a dynamic SQL to build my SQL statement to kill these processes. So if and let me comment this part out as well. Okay, so I'm doing here, I'm saying at the rate set set at the rate SQL kill, and then using the SPID and casting this one to the varchar. So it is returning me a number, and to concatenate with the string, I have to convert this one to the string or varchar, whatever you call. See here, this is the statement I'm trying to build. So this one is 51 number, and I need to build this string. So that's why I have, if let me show you, if I will say kill and then I add 51, this is going to give me error because 51 is integer value. So I cannot use this one. I have to cast this one as varchar or char. Now the both values are in string. So kill is already string, and I have converted 51 as a string, so I can concatenate them. So that's what we are doing here. So I'm concatenating and building my string. Here next part is I want to execute them. So I can use exec, that's a store procedure. I can use it, and then I can use the variable where I have saved my SQL statement. Now here I don't want to execute right away. I want to show you first. So next part, see if here I'm just printing few things. I'm saying process ID that I got from SPID, and this one as a worker has killed successfully. The next part is the fetch next from the cursor. So in the third step right here, we fetch the very first row. Let's consider this one came as 53. So we got the 53 here, we came inside the loop, we killed the, let's say we executed. So now we got this statement ready, and then we can actually, let me print this one for you. We printed this one, we executed this one, and then let me comment this part. We are not executing at this moment. I want to show you how exactly they will look. So I printed this out, so it was 53, and then we killed it, and then after killing we printed a message, okay, 53 number process ID is killed successfully. Okay, then we need to go for the next one. So we need to go for the 54. So this fetch inside the loop, you will be getting a next row, so you can process it. If you have multiple columns, you can always save multiple columns as well. Let's say if I would have SPIDs or another column, I would have defined two variables here, and then I will be just putting comma here, and let's say the second variable come here. I have all those examples. When I told you I have these all 5 different examples on blog post and videos, you can watch them and see how multiple variables are using the cursor. So in this case we are only using one variable to populate. So next you will be populating for the next record. So once this is done, it is gonna go back to the loop again and do the same thing what it did with the previous SPID. So it's going to kill the 54, then it's going to come back to the 55, 56, one after one, and kill them. Next, once this entire process is done, we will jump out of the loop, because at the rate fetch underscore status is going to return us a non-zero value, and then we will be jump out of the loop. Next part is the cursor will be closed. You will use close cursor name, and then you will deallocate from the memory by using deallocate and the cursor name. So that's how it is going to work. Now here what I'm doing, I have put the comments here, so it's not going to really run or kill the process. It is going to show us what cursor is going to do. So let's run this statement, and as you see that I have printed this one. So I had printed SQL. This is what we build. And then I have printed a message, okay, the process ID 53 has been killed or killed successfully, whatever you want to print, and then it will go for the next and next, and that's how it will be keep going. Now right now if we'll just uncomment this part and run this one, now it is going to really kill everything. So you will see the same message, but this time it executed this part and killed all those processes. If we go back here and run this statement, you will see no SPID is attached with the test database anymore because they are killed. But if I will reopen it, let's say if I will reopen, click here, new query, now I open a new process, and if I go here, I can execute this one and it give me 51 SPID. I can go back here in the cursor and rerun this cursor again. It is going to kill 51. So that's how it will loop through, kill them. Okay, now as all the process IDs or connections are killed from a database, we can go back here and rename without any problem. So let me rename this one 0315. Now it renamed the database successfully. So just to summarize the whole thing, cursors are not good when you can when you need to process the data in set bases like updates, deletes, inserts, and all that, but they are important for these kind of operations when you are performing operations on objects, taking backups, enabling multiple objects, killing those SPIDs on the database. So there are scenarios you have to think through. So you don't want to run the cursor for 100,000 records just take one record at a time and update in the loop and come to the next and all that. That can take you hours. So make sure you understand cursors are not to perform set based queries. They will not be helpful in those kind of requirements. So there should be a specific requirement that has to be attached with the cursor, and that's where the cursor can be written. If somebody say no, cursors are evil, yeah, I mean, yes, if you can perform your operation with the set base and then you start using cursor, yes, you are taking a wrong path. It is your choice. So cursors are not evil in a scenario where you really need to use them and you can't really perform by using the set based queries. So just take examples. I will say go through the cursor example, see what the people do, what are the good parts of these objects, how you can really use them in your daily life. I use this cursor all the time when I need to rename the databases. So I always use the cursor to kill those connection or SP IDs to that database and then rename the database. So it depends upon the situation, and have the knowledge about set based queries as well, so you would understand what is set based query and what is row by row, as we have explained in the cursor, taking one row at a time and performing the operation. Thanks very much for watching this video, and I will see you in next video.